decide whether we want to build on the progress we have made or risk going back to square one with no plan and no certainty. Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July.
Welcome to Inside Out with myself, Junior and Nneka. Why the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has called for a nearly general election? What are your views on this election? How is your community voting? So we're going to discuss around the general election, which is happening in July this year. In 6 weeks to come, general election is supposed to be held in January next year, 2025. But surprisingly, the Prime Minister has called for an early general election, which is going to be held in 6 weeks to come. We're going to discuss around the general election. We join here right now with Philillipe Shamamba. Philillipe Shamamba is one of the co-presenters, is regular on this show. He is a member of Independent Advisory Group, which works with the police, Thames Valley Police, to advise in terms of community issues. He's a member of African Diaspora Forum as well. Philillipe, welcome to Inside Out. Nneka, it was quite surprising, isn't it? We were all expecting a general election.
Yeah, I mean, we thought he was going to wait to the end for the 6 months? But yeah, it was the surprise of the week. Yeah, it's I don't know. We'll go with the flow and the plan of the Prime Minister. Yeah.
I listened to the Prime Minister. It was live. I remember I was driving, listening to BBC Radio 4, and already people were debating around that could be the announcement of early anticipated election. Then you can sound on his voice. The voice was a bit shaking. I remember it was, according to the commentator, that the voice of the Prime Minister was a bit shaky and heavy, rainy days as well. Philillipe, how are you doing, Philillipe?
Good afternoon, Junior. Good afternoon, Nneka. I'm doing well.
Hey.
I'm doing good, yeah.
Good to hear from you. Remember, Philillipe, you joining us from Milton Keynes, south east of England. So you're a strong member of our African community in Milton Keynes. You're involved in many activities there. As I introduced you earlier, you're a member of African Diaspora Group as well, IAG, Independent Advisory Group. What are your views with regard to the early general election, Philillipe?
Like you said, just pointed out, we've all been taken by surprise with the Prime Minister announcing elections in 6 weeks' time, which we expected in 6 months. 6 months and 10 to 6 weeks. So we were all taken by surprise. What I think, he must have reasons why he wants the elections to be in 6 weeks' time. There are reasons he did give, which might make sense, but I think if we do look at the atmosphere at the moment, if we look the political situation, the financial, everything is going at the moment, I think there is more than that, which we're going to discuss about this afternoon. Yeah.
You really think it's not just that he's fed up of running the country? he's tired of all the protests and things not quite not going his way. Anyway, yeah, like you said, I'm sure he has his reasons. But yeah, it was a surprise. I think a lot of people people have been saying in the past, when I think the opposition party, I would say, for Labour and the other parties have been calling for general, asking him to call the general election. And he didn't, he was just chilled about it. So for him to surprise the nation this week, for me it was quite. So it was it was.
It quite surprised.
Surprising.
We just had the election, isn't it, for police commissioner, police crime commissioner. There was a landslide.
PCC
the
election.
PCC election was landslide. Labour.
I think, going from my own opinion, I do think it's quite a risk, given that they lost quite a number of their seats. But I'm sure he's done his calculation. They seem to be very confident that they will remain in power. Let's see. I'm looking at the mood around here, and it's very mixed at the moment.
Very mixed.
Yeah. So who knows?
What are the main? I know, Nneka, the main policies here. Last week, Philip, the week before, we discussed about the immigration with Rwanda policy. So that will be one of the policies which are going to dominate these upcoming elections. Philip.
Yeah, I think I made me laugh when she said maybe he's just fed up of running the country, want to go. Prime Minister announcing the coming up elections. Like we said, he must have other reasons, but one of the reasons what he thought the Rwanda policy could have big impact on the election to come. I know immigration always play a big part when there's elections. People are on the right side of the government, extra on the right wing of things. They always bring out the immigration so they can get voices to the right or extreme right things. But in this one, Rwanda policy, as we spoke about last week, as you can see, Prime Minister, he said the first flight will take place in July, mid-July or end of July.
Yeah, but that was suspended, isn't it? It was suspended. That was he announced. I think he announced it during.
He announced. Yeah, he announced it. But the thing is, July is not going to finish. We're going to have elections in 6 weeks. So it's like, you vote for me. If you give me your voices, then Rwanda flight will take place. Rather, when he said the flight will take place before the elections, now he said in 6 weeks' time, which means if I stayed in my seat as a prime minister, then Rwanda flight will take place. So don't expect this flight to take place before the elections. This is what it really means by you can see from having election in 6 weeks' time. But this is not what the promise was, that the flight would take place before the elections. And knowing that the Labour, they said if they elected, if they take the government, they're just going to scrap the policy. They're just going to concentrate on how to reinforce the borders rather than spending money on taking.
I listened to Keir Starmer on it was invited. LBC was talking about Rwanda policy. As Philip said, if Labour Party won the election, they would scrap it. But there was no a time frame when they should scrap the Rwanda policy. Because the immigration, as Philip said, is going definitely to dominate this election.
Definitely. I think generally for both parties, the foreign policy is going to play a key role. Immigration definitely is one of them. The war in Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine war is definitely going to be on there. The Israel-Gaza war, Palestine, as we know, it's been it has set the mood for a lot of people in terms of this election. So definitely, immigration, like you guys said, Rwanda policy is one of the things that both parties are pushing. But with Labour, to be honest, I'm not sure where they stand, because Keir Starmer said what he said. However, it's not clear, and I've not listened to any of his speeches, to be honest. However, I know Labour is not taking a stronger stand as the Conservative Party, but given that a lot of people in the country The mood is reduce immigration. The mood is we want sensible immigration laws. Now, whether Labour pushes or abandons the Rwanda policy is something that I think we'll have to wait and see. I must say, I'm not too sure about Keir Starmer because I don't see any difference between him and Tory party at the moment. That's my personal view, especially on the foreign policy. Although, having said that, I do believe Labour is leaning towards a more, not less aggressive, inhumane policy. I can, looking at the past policies. So I think that's honestly my view and my opinion. But I think going back to the foreign policy, I think one of the things that will also dominate this election, and what I believe is in a lot of people's mind, is Palestinian, Ukraine. This too, a lot of people can we focus more? I believe, from my own circle, my observation, people want to see Palestine issue resolved peacefully. They want to see peace in that region. People are not pro-genocide, as we can see across the globe. And so definitely it will play a very big role in this election, in people deciding where to cast their votes.
Phil, we'll come back to foreign policy. Let's stay on domestic policy, like Rwanda, immigration. What your intake, because you're member of African Diaspora Forum, with immigration background. I think Rwanda policy has dominated the debate around there.
Yeah.
What's your view with regard to the Rwanda policy in both sides? I think all political side, left or right, or in the middle. What your views? What's the view of your community, the African diaspora?
Right, but like Nneka mentioned, if you see Sunak's policies and Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer's policy, there's no very big difference except in this immigration, except in this Rwanda. That's where they are quite apart. Because for Rishi Sunak, this plan has to take place and take it to Rwanda as soon as possible. But for Keir Starmer and the Labour, it's like, no, this is waste of money, spending millions, which could be well spent here, and see what we can do domestically to stop the boats and to control immigration. So that's where they differ. They have a big difference. But when it comes to other foreign policy, I said we're going to talk about later, there is no very big difference. As to ADF, African Diaspora Forum, excuse me, we are immigrants. Like I said, we all came from outside. We're here. If you see the right side of the things in immigration-wise, and the election is coming, I don't know if you remember when Brexit happened, when we go out of Europe.
8 years ago.
Yeah, lots of Europeans left. NHS, other social services. The demand went really up, and they gave what I can say the favor or option that African countries can start sending qualified people to fill these jobs. And they relaxed a little bit on visas side of getting people here. On that, people from Commonwealth countries like Zimbabwe, South Africa, Ghana, there's lots of them who came through this policy trying to fill out the gaps in NHS and social things. But now there is a bit of problem there. I don't know if Labour will carry on the same policy to give this, to keep on going giving visa to immigrants to come over to fill the gap or to fill in what East Europeans who left were doing. As you stand now, I don't know what really are Labour's policy on that side of things. I don't know exactly what Keir Starmer and the Labour stand, because they haven't spoken about it that much, and we don't know if what really are they going to do when, let's say, all the gaps have been filled, all the employment, all the number they needed is there. Because I remember some people who have been here coming over, they don't really have what to do. I've noticed.
Right. Okay. I think Phil, sorry to cut you in. I think you're talking about the
skilled visa.
Skilled visa, and I think you're quite right, because there's a lot of people who took advantage of this scheme, and they're over here now, but they're out of work because the system, it's a very complex situation. I think that's something that we could discuss on a separate show. But going back to this, this as a policy, I wouldn't necessarily call it domestic policy, because it's part of immigration. It's relation with people coming from relating with other countries. So with this immigration, this aspect of the Home Office opening the doors or granting people visa to come and work in the country, the scheme is still on, and I do believe that Labour will probably will continue with it. However, it's important to go back and see what their stance is. I do believe they've released their manifesto. Yeah, I think they have. So it's worth looking to see what their stance is. But for me, it's not about this policy. It's not about opening the doors for highly skilled immigrants or skilled worker visas and all that. It's about the humanitarian aspect of it. A lot of people are here. They're stranded at the moment. The scheme was opened. A lot of businesses within the care sector, especially the healthcare and hospitality sector, took advantage of it. But what's happened, you have rogue companies who have then used this as a medium of wealth creation for themselves, where they now sell they sell their licenses, the sponsorship to potential workers without them having any work.
And they're stranded here. Most of them with families as well.
With families, and they're here, and there's no no access to public funds.
No support.
No support. Some of them haven't got family members, so they're stranded here. Now, I think that's what I would like to see. I would like to know how Labour can help tackle this issue. Bringing in more people is not the problem. I think there's still a massive gap within the workforce, especially the healthcare sector. That needs filling. The NHS, I do believe they do need to recruit more people. But I think saying that, if I digress a little bit, I think, was it last week? I can't remember his name. Someone from the Conservative Party said something along the lines of having some kind of investment in, or them investing in developing and recruiting
the local workforce, upskilling local workforce.
Yes, that's it. And then before going, and you have to evidence that you've done that before you obviously you put your advert out on international market. So I think it's a wise thing to do, given that we have quite a number of these skilled workers who are already in the country, have no access to any some kind of support, and are going through some serious hardship. So I think, that's something to look at.
It has been described as well as the modern slavery.
It is modern slavery. When that's on a different level. When you think about the fact that a lot of these people come, and the government is aware, and I'm not, associating this with any particular government. The Home Office, I know, it's currently managed by the Home Office, by the Conservative Party. However, even when you go beyond that, some of these things are, when you look deeper, in a way, it's encouraging modern day slavery. I mean, and I've got to be careful in saying this, because I know there are mechanisms, there are policies in place within, that the UK government have put in place to monitor how companies recruiting from abroad, treat their staff. But sometimes, these things are overlooked. Now, like I said, it's something that we could explore on a different show. But coming back to the election and how this will impact people's decision, voters' decision, I do think
it will play a part.
It will play a part.
Let's get back to foreign policy. I think this week, ICC issued a warrant arrest for Netanyahu that with regard to
and Hamas, both
Hamas,
parties,
with regard to South Africa. South Africa filed a case against Israel for war crimes, for wars happening in Gaza. Phil, do you think that is another case? It will play a crucial role in this election?
Yeah, I think it's going to play quite a big role because, there's a kind of division there. You can see people supporting Palestine or people supporting Israel and all that. It's going to play a big role in the way that most of left-wing side of the politics here, people, what can I say? I was watching TV the other day. Let me just mention one line about America election coming. And somebody said something very interesting about Joe Biden not giving his position, exact position, what is he going to do, and that was going to Palestine and Israel and Gaza. Because they've noticed they start losing Arab American voices.
I do believe that the Muslim votes in America will impact Joe Biden, and also here, and this election, especially the Labour Party, because there's a huge amount of Muslims voters, or Asians who are pro-Labour. So it's going to be an interesting one. But what I do believe is, when it comes to the Palestinian case, I know a lot of conservatives who are pro-Palestinian, believe it or not. For most people, it's about humanity. For most people, it's about, they want to see your humanity, whether you're pro-Israel, you're pro-Ukraine, you're pro-Russia. We just want peace. For me, it's about diplomacy, and a lot of people want a government who pushes diplomacy as opposed to this, let's tooth for tat, or that, this whole revenge campaign that they've, a lot of them have championed these guys, So I do believe it, it will definitely have an impact.
It's very, very interesting in impact. We've seen Jeremy Corbyn is going to stand against Labour. This is quite strange. That's another. Is Labour divided? What impact Jeremy Corbyn as a former leader of the Labour Party is going to have on this election?
I think before, sorry Phil, I know you probably want to. Do you want to go first? I have.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Jeremy Corbyn coming back as an independent, because you know what happened in Labour when when they lost the elections. He had a few issues. He was accused of a lot of things about Jewish community not doing this. So him coming back and leaving people who are behind him, I think for him was not going to be a good decision. That's why he decided to come as an independent. But it's not just Jeremy Corbyn. If you see somebody like George Galloway, who has come back, was also come back in the parliament, standing up for Palestine and other things, then Jeremy Corbyn, we all know, he always stands for Palestine, for like Nneka mentions, about humanity and other things. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen as Jeremy as an independent rather than a Labour candidate. I think, let's see. And we have Diana Abbott as well, who has been investigated by the police for things that she's been accused of. But we don't know the results yet. So she's still in Labour, but we don't know if she's going to come out as independent. Knowing the relation between she has with Jeremy Corbyn being independent, Diana Abbott, we don't know yet if she'll be Labour or independent. Like Nneka says, it's going to be very interesting election. In 6 weeks to come. I don't know if they have enough time. So let's see what's going to happen here.
Well, I think for me, I can say, going by the knowledge of those around me, the knowledge that I have, I do believe that a lot of people, even before Rishi Sunak announced the election, have not, let me not say a lot of people, I think majority have made up their mind where it's either they're going to vote or where they're going to, who their vote's going to go to.
Yeah, but why?
Based on these two factors. I say, what do you mean why?
No, what has made people's mind ready before even the election?
Because people have been protesting for long.
Mostly young people, isn't it? If you go through campuses.
Young people, definitely. A lot of them are definitely not going for the Tory party.
Yeah.
I'm not here but they're definitely not pro Rishi Sunak. I mean, you hear likes of Fiona, the young lady that interviewed Suella Braverman. I don't know if you guys watched that. I thought that was very interesting to watch. And that's the mood. That is what I sense from a lot of young people when you speak to them. I think Labour might get some of the young people's vote because they are, opposed to, they really want to get rid of Rishi Sunak and the likes of them. But, you mentioned Judge Galloway, and I think that's where that's for me, it's something that I'm looking to, I'm keen, I'm very curious about how that party will impact these two mainstream party. I think it might not go to, the Greens as much. Greens might get independent, and Greens might end up getting the vote, and that's possibly why Jeremy Corbyn made that decision. Obviously, he was kicked out of the party, but I think it's the right time for him, given where he's, given the fact that he's always supported the Palestinian cause. So if I'm thinking like him and being calculative, he knows majority, and I think he's, his constituent is, more left leaning.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that him going independent, he'll still take those voters with
win
him.
the voters. Let me, you mentioned young voters. Young voters, if you go around campuses in the UK, are protesting for the peace in Gaza and saving the environment, protecting the environment.
Climate change, yeah.
The climate change.
It's a big thing.
Big thing.
Yes.
They're not going, Rwanda policy as well, but most of them, they barricade, they to stop the immigration policy. So that's what the three key points.
For young people, I think the Rwanda policy, that a lot of them are against the Rwanda. They say it's inhumane. It's it's not the right approach. Which when you look closely, there is some element of truth. But I'm not going to bring my own opinion into this. But that's true. That a lot of the young people are against the Rwanda policy, and that's why the Conservatives are going to struggle with.
Yeah. And Phil, we've seen the rising of the Green Party. More and more young people are going to the Green Party. Do you think that the Green Party represents young people's views on policies and the current context?
Well, when we're talking about young people, most of the time we see students, we see, because those who are under 18, they don't vote. So from 18 upward, most of them are like
Yeah, I think those
university.
are the age that we
The age group, yeah.
Yeah, so you see more students at uni. Most protests, like you say, is happening at uni, all that. So most of the time, students tend to be seems to go against what they think is not right for the society, what they think is right for this world, for the planet, humanity side. So the Green Party, as green, like we said, is all about environment. It's all about doing the right thing, humanitarian side of things. So that seems to be more what young people want. Young people want to see what the future is there for them. If you look at like the environment side, global change, or people are protesting about petroleum things, all that. So young people seem to go more toward this kind of thing. So that's why Green Party, but they seem to be going together with the young people. But when they are there, like the question is, are they going really to represent the young people? Are they going to speak the voice of young people? We don't know. I would love to, if when they're there, they will do that. But most of the time we see when politics get involved, policies which were there while the campaigning seems to change. Like you say, last elections when we had the governments, Conservative and the Liberals, when they said they're going to scrap, they're going to look into student loan and all that. Well, when they go in there, they change. So I would like to see the Green Party, who young people are supporting, when they are there, to do what they're going to promise to the young people. That would be very interesting, and that would be good if they will keep up the policy of, if they will. It's not just to get young people to vote for them, but to represent the young people at the government level. If they do get access to the governments, that's how I think. What's my views.
There's no clear agenda. The agenda is just the climate change. There's no clear agenda, Nneka.
Honestly, I don't really know much about the Green Party in terms of their manifesto. I know, obviously, they're all about climate change, the environment, housing, I think.
Immigration as well, stand for immigration.
Immigration. I mean, they're very clear on those.
Yeah, they're very clear on immigration,
points.
climate change,
climate
and housing.
change is like a big thing. They're all about the whole, austerity, cost of living, the standard of living, and all that. So, I wouldn't say then, what it's clear what they stand for, but maybe it doesn't cover a lot. But I think often for me, and that's partly why I don't really look at the Green Party, because I think they're not, some of their stands when it comes to key things like the foreign policy, to be honest, I'm not quite sure how clear where they stand. So I wouldn't, I don't really know much about it. Obviously, lately I've been following, and I'm curious about the Tory Conservative Party, the Labour Party, some of the Independent Workers' Party. So I mean, but it's the mood. I think is set for a lot of people, given all the crises. It's just there's a lot of chaos at the moment. So, there's a lot of chaos when you think about foreign policies. The fact that whether you care about politics or not, maybe you don't want to vote, but then you can't go into London every weekend without people marching against one thing or the other. It shows that there is a problem in the country. So the government, the election, is going to be a very decisive one for a lot of people, because there's been something that they've been pushing for a long time, so now they have the opportunity to go cast their vote to whoever they believe.
Very decisive.
That's one thing. One more thing.
Yeah,
Can I
Phil,
just come in one second?
go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, we did speak about Jeremy Corbyn. We spoke about George Galloway, but I forgot to mention Nigel Farage, the guy who played a very big role on the
During
Brexit.
Brexit.
He decided not to
run. He played a crucial role during the referendum in 2016.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
the
he played a
lies.
crucial part.
but that's the thing. All his lies, came to light.
Catching up with him, yeah.
Yeah, all the lies came to light because none of him and Boris Johnson were just this horrible politicians. They play politics with people's lives, telling tales, there's half of the thing that they promised
So
never manifested.
So surprisingly, the key figures of referendum Brexit 2016, Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, David Cameron, I'll say. So they're not going to be the mainstream politician as we noticed that 8 years ago. They're not going to be in front of politics. Like Michael Gove as well. Michael Gove pull out from the Conservatives. He say he's not going to stand for.
The Conservatives are having a really hard time. I want to say that I feel sorry for Rishi Sunak, but no, I don't. But as a politician, I do kind of have some kind of pity. There's some kind of pity party going there in my head for him, given that he's lost 75 counting MPs. He's in trouble. They're spending their energy instead of them focusing on campaigning, trying to get the candidate to fill in positions to make sure their candidates that they are having a tough time. Who knows? Maybe some of them stepping down want to actually contest. Maybe they want to. They're going to take part of this 6 weeks. You see them fighting for who will be the Conservative leader. Who knows? There might be a vote of no confidence.
Who knows?
Against Rishi Sunak.
Who knows? July is going to be a very decisive time for the UK political landscape. Meantime, MPs or current MPs or candidates are gearing up, are campaigning already. They took them in a surprise. Put them.
I think a lot
surprise.
of them. I took them by surprise. I would say maybe 50-50 because they've been asking Rishi Sunak to call the general election, so there should have been sort of half surprise. I don't know if that's a thing, but
it was expected,
prepared a little bit. Yes.
All right. It was good to have you, Philip. Remember, you are a member of AIG, Independent Advisory Group. You work with which works with the police, Thames Valley Police. You are also a member of African Diaspora Group. You one of the analyze on Inside Out. Thank you to have you on Inside Out from Milton Keynes. And Nneka, myself and Nneka, we're going to come back, Phil, next week as well. We're coming back with other topic.